So yeah, okay. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classic, Let's Known Classics. This episode number 2040 and Doubleshot number 1934. I have two DC trades that are magical based. First up, we have The Unexpected Call of the Unknown. Yes, a short-lived series under the New Age of Heroes line of books. How short was this book? 8 issues. I think this was the second shortest book of the entire line. I think they also had Curse of the Brimstone. That was like 1 issue long, and that one was like 9 issues. It was 8 issues. Now, of course, the writing of this book is done by Steve Orlando. Like, okay, interesting. The artwork is done by, of course, more than one artist. We have 4 artists for 8 issues. Why in the world is it like this? I have no freaking idea. We have Ryan Collett, Corey Nord, Yoel Yannick, and Ryan Snook. Ryan Snook also does the cover art here. Now, The Unexpected. They are pretty much a group of supernatural characters. They deal with like this Musk character. And of course, they run into various DC superheroes throughout these 8 issues. They run into Hawkman. They run into Huntress. They run into The Signal. Yes, The Signal. You know, of all people. There's also something really weird here, where apparently Castle Frankenstein is associated with Hawkman. Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. I get the reason why Hawkman is here, probably to promote his book, but why in the world is Huntress and The Signal here? Yeah, this makes no freaking sense at all. And in case you're curious, though, when this book came out like a few years ago, like back in 2018. Now, was the actual Outsiders book published a period of time? No. I think that prior to this, like the last time Huntress was featured in a comic book, just prior to this book coming out, I think was probably in The Hellblazer. That's probably the last time I could think of that she was featured in a comic. But yeah, it's awesome to see her again. And I think like not long after this, she basically became a recurring character during the Marco Temikage run for Detective Comics. She even got her one-shot. Yep, she had her own Secret Files Orders one-shot for the Batman one-shots. Yep, great stuff here. This is just an absolute really good series. Steve Orlando does an absolute great job here. Sadly, this book got canceled, probably due to low sales. Probably the reason people stopped buying this book because the artwork changed in 3 issues. Yes, it still baffles me. I would love to find out the reason why all the books under this new line of books, this new Age of Heroes, why all the books, except for Hawkman, it was the only one that suffered through this one, where all the books, after 3 issues, change artists. Yes. Why? That's a very good question. Yeah. Give this book a 9.5 out of 10. And also with that book there, you probably think, okay, how many books have to go for this line of books for DC Comics? Shockingly, there are 3 left. Sideways, Challenge the Unknown, and Curse of Brimstone. That's it. They also version of Firebrand in here, who is a woman. Interesting, to say the least. Excuse me, yes. Alright, next up it is Final Crisis. I think this is called Revelations. This contains a 5-issue miniseries Revelations and the Secret Files Orders one-shot for Final Crisis. This is written by Greg Rucka and art by Philip Tan. Now, the Spectre is obviously the cover here. Just let me show the picture out here, because apparently they just splat this on here. Now, they apparently like when I do this, but I have to show this picture here. I got a better idea. Here we go. Yeah. In case you're curious, though, who is the Spectre, you might ask? That is Crispus Allen. And believe it or not, this book came out roughly 3 years after Infinite Crisis. Yes. And this actually is one of those miniseries that Spectre featured. And of course, he's not the only one here. We also parents here by The Question, who is Renee Montoya, and Batwoman, a character Greg Rucka basically created. Yes. You could say the way this book is written, it's sort of a semi-sequel, or at least a spiritual sequel to Gotham Central, because they do, in fact, bring up the events of Gotham Central a little bit here. The fact that Chris Allen and Bernard Montoya were partners, they're all friends, and the fact that, well, Chris Allen blames himself for the death of his own son. Now, Chris Allen at this point had been the Spectre at this point for 3 years. He actually became the Spectre in his own self-titled miniseries called Crisis Aftermath: The Spectre. It was only 3 issues. And then he got a Tales of the Unexpected limited series where it basically had 2 story arcs in there. And this is the only book he had of his own. Just this book. It's simply put, his book. And this mostly deals with the whole thing related to Final Crisis. Well, mostly put this deals with the religious side of the event. Mm-hmm. Now you're probably thinking, okay, who's the main villain of this miniseries? Like, who is like the star here? Well, we have appearance here by Dr. Light. Yes, Dr. Light. In his first issue here, he's turned to a candle. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much the first issue of this miniseries, Dr. Light dies. Yes. And by the way, this came roughly 5 years after Identity Crisis. And he dies. Yep. And in case you're curious, though, this is the only death you have the whole miniseries. Just Dr. Light. Now, you also have these other, like, heroes. Here's these villains. Yep. And basically, it's all about the secret society of suit villains. Where basically just going after doing their own thing. They're led by Lebra. Yes, Lebra. Interesting. Yes. Despite the fact this is the religious aspect, also stuff related to... We also appearance here by Vandal Savage for some reason in this miniseries. And he's got like a weird mark on his face. And then for some reason, this got transferred over to Renee Montoya. Yes, which she had this mark on her face up until the Flashpoint reboot. Yes, for some reason they kept this here. I don't know why. Now here's a little fun fact here about this storyline. You could say this is taking place during the time of the Greg Rucka is actually his run for Detective Comics. Because I believe the story just prior to his run for that one. Yes, I believe it did. And basically you could say this is to set up anything related to the Pipeline storyline from that particular series. No, but it's just a really good mini-series for the Spectre. I love it. Give this book a 9.5 out of 10. Just really good here. Only the second trade review featuring the Chris Allen Spectre. I have reviewed one other trade features him. Basically, his second half of his story arc from his stories from Tales Unexpected. But that's all I review from him. Yes. Now, here's the interesting thing about him. About Chris Allen. Like all the books feature him as a Spectre. Here's a shocking fact. They're all in trade. Every single miniseries is in trade. There is a single one isn't in trade. I can't count this as one of his per se, because it's basically his book, and it's done by Greg Rucka. Yep. Here's a fun fact. Did you know Greg Rucka actually co-wrote Gotham Central? So it makes perfect sense that you basically read this book. Despite the fact it's clearly set during an actual event, it clearly feels like some stuff you read from Gotham Central. Mostly anyways. Yeah. But yeah, damn good book here. Okay, so that's a particular view. Next one's going to be Bleach. Okay, next video.